What if the relationships that are supposed to heal you are actually the ones quietly breaking you? What if you've been sitting across the dinner table from the very source of your deepest shame, calling it family, calling it love, calling it loyalty, when really what you've been doing is surviving? I've spent decades in research rooms, in conversation circles, in the raw and honest places where people finally tell the truth about their lives. And here is what I know without question. The most dangerous pain is not the pain that comes from strangers. It is the pain we normalize, the pain we explain away, the pain we dress up in excuses because the person causing it is someone we love. But here's what I also know. You cannot pour from a shattered vessel. You cannot show up with your whole heart in a space that systematically punishes you for having one. Today, we are going to talk about 5 behaviors, 5 specific, recognizable, real behaviors that you were never meant to tolerate. Not from colleagues, not from friends, not from partners, and I know this is hard to hear, not even from family. Because here's the truth that changed everything for me. Loving someone and accepting mistreatment from them are not the same thing. They were never the same thing. Stay with me. This conversation might be the one you've needed your entire life. Full speech, 5 behaviors you should never tolerate from anyone, not even family, written in Brené Brown's style. What if the relationships that are supposed to heal you are actually the ones quietly breaking you? I want to start there. Not because it's comfortable, but because comfort has never been the thing that changes lives. Truth does. And if you've clicked on this video, if something in you was drawn to this title today, I want to honor that. Because I believe that something in you already knows. Something in you has been sitting with a kind of low-grade pain that you can't quite name. A heaviness around certain people, a version of yourself that shrinks when specific names light up your phone screen, a quiet voice that whispers, "This doesn't feel right," right before another voice, usually someone else's, tells you that you're being too sensitive. I've spent decades doing research on vulnerability, shame, belonging, and what it actually means to live wholeheartedly. And across thousands of interviews, one pattern showed up so consistently, so painfully, so universally that I couldn't ignore it anymore. The behaviors that cause us the deepest, most lasting shame and disconnection, the behaviors that truly unravel us from the inside, are rarely coming from people we don't know. They are coming from people we love, people we share history with, people we share last names with, and we tolerate it. We tolerate it because we were taught that love means endurance. We tolerate it because we're afraid of what setting a boundary will cost us. We tolerate it because somewhere along the way, we internalize the message that our discomfort is less important than someone else's comfort. And I am here today to look you directly in the eye, through this screen, across this distance, and tell you something I wish someone had told me far earlier. Tolerating behavior that violates your dignity is not love. It is not loyalty. It is not strength. It is self-abandonment, and you deserve better than that. So let's talk about the 5 behaviors, 5 specific, concrete, recognizable behaviors that you should never normalize, never excuse, and never accept as the price of admission into a relationship. Any relationship. The first behavior is chronic disrespect disguised as love. Here's what makes this one so particularly insidious. It doesn't look like what we imagine abuse or mistreatment looks like. It doesn't always come with raised voices or dramatic confrontations. Often it is quieter than that. It is the comment about your weight at the family gathering, followed immediately by, "I'm just worried about you." It is the rolling eyes when you share something that excites you. It is the dismissive, "That's a terrible idea," delivered without a single moment of curiosity about your thinking. It is the joke at your expense that everyone laughs at, and when you don't laugh, you're told you have no sense of humor. What I've learned, And what the research confirms over and over and is that chronic disrespect operates on accumulation. No single incident seems worth addressing. Each one in isolation feels small enough to let go. But the accumulation, the pattern, is not small. The accumulation is the thing that over months and years teaches you that your feelings are too much, your dreams are unrealistic, your voice is an inconvenience. And then one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back at you because you've spent so long managing someone else's comfort that you've completely lost track of your own truth. Shame researchers, and I am one, know that shame cannot survive being spoken. So let me name this clearly. Chronic disrespect, regardless of who is delivering it, regardless of what relationship title they hold, is a form of harm. Full stop. The fact that someone loves you or claims to love you does not give them permission to repeatedly treat you as less than. Real love, wholehearted love, does not require you to dissolve yourself to receive it. The second behavior is gaslighting, and it is a silent identity thief. What if someone has been slowly convincing you that your reality isn't real? What if the most confusing relationship in your life is confusing precisely because someone in that relationship has made it their mission, consciously or unconsciously, to keep you unsure of yourself? Gaslighting sounds like, "That never happened. You always exaggerate. You're so dramatic. I never said that. You're remembering it wrong. Everyone thinks you're overreacting, not just me." And here is what makes gaslighting different from a simple disagreement about facts. It is not occasional. It is consistent. It is a pattern of having your perceptions, your memories, your emotional responses, and your lived experience systematically denied and rewritten over time. And this is the part that breaks my heart in the research. Gaslighting doesn't just make you doubt specific memories, it makes you doubt yourself entirely. You stop trusting your gut. You stop advocating for your own experience because you've been corrected so many times that your internal compass starts to feel broken. You start going to the very person who is confusing you and asking them to help you make sense of your confusion. And they do, on their terms, in their favor, in ways that always somehow conclude that you are the problem. Here's what I want you to hear. Your perception of your own life is not up for debate. Your feelings are data. They are not character flaws. When someone consistently works to make you feel unhinged for having a normal human emotional response to something they did, that is not love having a hard conversation. That is manipulation, protecting itself from accountability. And you are allowed to trust yourself. You are allowed to say, "I know what I experienced." You are allowed to hold your truth even when someone else is working very hard to take it from you. The third behavior is emotional manipulation through guilt and obligation. I want to read you something I hear in some version almost every time I sit with people who are struggling in their closest relationships. It goes something like this: "I know it's not right, but I feel like I owe them. After everything they've done for me, after everything we've been through, how can I say no? How can I choose myself when they need me?" Do you recognize that? Because I do. I've heard it thousands of times. And every single time, what I notice is that the person saying it is not speaking from a place of genuine love or freely given generosity. They are speaking from fear. They are speaking from shame. They have been trained through repeated exposure to guilt as a tool to experience their own needs as a betrayal of the person who needs something from them. Emotional manipulation through guilt and obligation is extraordinarily common in family systems because families are where we learn our original emotional vocabulary. If the adults in your early life used guilt and obligation as primary relationship currencies, "After all I've sacrificed for you, you're the only one who can help me," a good daughter/son/partner would never, then you likely grew up believing that self-sacrifice is what love looks like. that prioritizing yourself is selfish, that boundaries are a form of abandonment. But here is what I know to be true after all of this research, after all of these conversations. Love that requires you to betray yourself is not love, it is leverage. The people who genuinely love you, who love you in the wholehearted, show up for your humanness way that we all deserve, will not weaponize their need against your well being. They will not punish you emotionally for saying no. They will not reframe your healthy boundary as proof that you don't care about them. If someone consistently does those things, they are not expressing love. They are expressing a need for control. And your worth is not measured by how much of yourself you give away to keep someone else from being uncomfortable. The fourth behavior is contempt, and it is perhaps the most dangerous of all. Contempt is different from anger. I want to be very precise about this because the distinction matters enormously. Anger, and even intense disruptive anger, still operates within a framework that acknowledges your humanity. When someone is angry with you, they are treating you as a person who did something they find unacceptable. That's painful, it can be harmful, but it is different from contempt. Contempt says, "You are beneath me." Contempt does not argue with you. It dismisses you. It doesn't express frustration with your behavior. It expresses disgust at your existence. It lives in the eye roll delivered mid-sentence while you're trying to express something important. It lives in the condescending explanation given in the slow, careful tones reserved for people who are believed to be intellectually inferior. It lives in the sneer, the mockery, the "I can't believe you actually think that," delivered with a kind of amused disdain that makes you feel small in a way that is very difficult to articulate. The reason contempt is so catastrophically damaging to human beings is that we are wired for belonging. Connection is not a luxury, it is a biological necessity. And contempt sends one clear, devastating message to every ancient part of your nervous system. You do not belong here. You are not enough. You are not worthy of basic respect. When that message comes from someone you love, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a close friend, the damage operates at an identity level. You don't just feel bad about what happened. You feel bad about who you are. This is not okay. This is never okay. And I want to say with complete clarity, there is no relationship, no shared history, no blood connection, no romantic love, no professional obligation that entitles another person to treat you with contempt. You deserve to be in relationships where your humanity is respected, where disagreement doesn't require dehumanization, where being imperfect doesn't make you a target. That is not too much to ask. That is the absolute baseline. The fifth behavior is the normalization of your pain by the people causing it. This is the one I think about most. This is the one that keeps me up at night when I think about all the people sitting in rooms right now telling themselves that what is happening to them is just how things are, just their family's dynamic, just their partner's communication style, just something they need to be more understanding about, more patient about, more willing to work through. The normalization of pain is extraordinarily powerful because it doesn't just affect your perception of the relationship, it affects your perception of yourself. When someone repeatedly communicates through their words, they're minimizing, they're "you're too sensitive," they're "every couple goes through this," they're "this is what love looks like in the real world," that your pain is not a reasonable response to what is happening, you eventually stop reporting the pain. You start editing your experience. You start performing okayness to avoid the exhaustion of being told you're wrong about your own suffering. And here is what happens then. The pain doesn't go away, it goes underground. It starts expressing itself in other ways: anxiety, depression, physical symptoms, a pervasive sense that something is fundamentally wrong with you, an inability to trust your own instincts. You carry the pain of the relationship, plus the pain of being told the pain doesn't exist. And that combination is one of the heaviest things a human being can carry. Shame cannot survive being named. The most revolutionary act available to you right now, if you are sitting with pain that someone has convinced you is unreasonable, is to call it what it is. Your pain is real. Your experience is valid. Your desire to be treated with kindness and dignity is not a character flaw or an unreasonable expectation. It is the most human thing about you. And any relationship in any form that requires you to pretend otherwise is not a relationship worth protecting at the expense of your own truth. Here is what I want to leave you with. None of this work, none of it, is about becoming harder. It is not about building walls. It is not about cutting everyone off or deciding that relationships are too dangerous to invest in. Every bit of my life's work points in exactly the opposite direction. Connection is the whole point. Belonging is the whole point. Love, real, wholehearted, showing up in the dark love is the whole point. But here's what's also true. You cannot access real connection while you are busy managing someone else's chronic disrespect. You cannot be fully present in a relationship while you are constantly doubting your own reality. You cannot love freely when you are operating from a place of guilt and obligation and fear. You cannot experience genuine belonging in a space where contempt is the language. You cannot show up as yourself when who you are has been systematically told it is not enough. The boundaries you set, the behaviors you refuse to normalize, the relationships you restructure or let go of, these are not acts of abandonment. They are acts of profound self-respect. And self-respect, I have found, is the foundation of every beautiful, lasting, genuine connection you will ever experience. You are allowed to want better. You are allowed to require better. And you are allowed to create the conditions in your life where better can actually exist. Conclusion. What we've talked about today isn't theory. It isn't abstract. It is the very real, very common experience of millions of people who were taught by culture, by family, by years of accumulated messaging that their worth is conditional, that love requires silence, that loyalty means endurance. But here's the truth I want you to carry with you when you close this video. The life you deserve, the connections you deserve, cannot be built on a foundation of tolerated mistreatment. You are not too sensitive. You are not asking for too much. You are not being dramatic, unreasonable, or disloyal for wanting to be treated with basic human dignity. Recognizing these 5 behaviors, chronic disrespect, gaslighting, emotional manipulation, contempt, and the normalization of your pain, is not the beginning of isolation. It is the beginning of wholehearted living. The moment you stop tolerating what diminishes you is the moment you create space for what actually nourishes you. And that moment is available to you right now.